Alright everyone, it's time to talk about the Australian push to destroy the internet. Today in our first video talking about Julie Inman-Grant, yes, a former CIA recruit, although did not officially join the CIA. We'll be talking about maybe some speculation with regards to that American-born but works for the Australian government actually, attempting to promulgate internet censorship as part of their e-safety commission, of course. Proposals ranging from cracking down on VPNs, to creating like an internet passport of sorts. By the way, passports originally were effectively developed during World War II and meant to be temporary for various purposes, and then they just never left. They shouldn't exist at all, actually. You should be able to go wherever you want and do whatever you want to do. I do believe in freedom of movement. You'll find that it is heavily restricted if you've ever tried to go anywhere internationally for an extended period of time. The generation of our great-grandparents didn't have to deal with these sorts of things, or great-great-grandparents, depending on your age. Just so people know, unfortunately, there are few people alive who can attest to how different things were maybe at the dawn of the 20th century. There are very few of them left, and probably somebody should interview all of them and get the skinny on how things worked back then, when things were a shit ton easier, actually, much better in many ways. You might get cholera or something like that. You might die of polio. But other than the technological advancements in medicine and sanitation and stuff, a lot of things were actually better back then, literally 100 years ago. The Australians are trying to destroy the internet, and for those of you who are hip to the meme culture thing, of course you probably are not surprised that the Australians would be behind an attempt to destroy the internet, because I guess they want to monopolize the shitposting market. And so they're trying to handicap other people so that they can get more of a word in edgewise, I guess. Jokes aside, though, it is concerning to see the trajectory of the current internet. And none of it is necessary, by the way. It's always think of the children, crack down on disinformation, propaganda, etc., etc., etc. Those of us old enough to remember can remember a completely Wild West internet. Does this come attendant with problems? Yes, absolutely. It comes attendant with people being bullied. It comes attendant with trafficking and drug sales and stuff like that. These are things that are facilitated in real-world situations already, though. The internet just means that it's more long distance and quicker. It's digital communication. With the rise of, IRC networks and stuff like that very, very long ago, that sort of thing was already happening. I can remember going into chat rooms when I was only 12, 13 years old, and there's some edgy, crazy shit being posted there, of course, there's porn and all of these other things. That being said, the usage of the internet now is ubiquitous. It is the modern public square. That's number one. Number two, it has facilitated the massive rise of the use of that technology for great benefit for many, many people. From the early era with .coms and IRC networks, to the early social media era, to the sort of internet is everything era that we're in now, with all of the video hosting and all of these other things that weren't really possible back then. Early internet. You could put a video on your web page maybe, but it wasn't exactly interconnected the way that it is today. It's also heavily monopolized. What I feel is that European, Australian, and similar regulators in other countries, I mean, this is a problem. I'll get into Turkey, by the way, in a moment, and in certain other countries. What has happened is that these nations don't have as much of a presence on the internet as far as real mainline sites. For example, Google is a U.S. company and all of its subsidiaries, YouTube, etc. Google is U.S. Meta, with Facebook, for what it's worth, Insta and Snapchat and so forth, is a U.S. company. Twitter is a U.S. company, or X now, and so on and so on forth. All the big names tend to be in the United States. Other countries want a cut of the pie. And so they want to use the size and scope of U.S. networks, which are based under U.S. law, which tends to be very much in favor of free expression. We do see examples of the U.S. government illegally attempting to crack down on free expression as well, but at least in the United States it's held as unconstitutional and it's understood that that's wrong. In other countries, there's no such appreciation for free expression. What I fear is the balkanization of the internet, where a lot of mainline sites will go along with it and they will effectively Europeanize, and the internet will become old world as opposed to new world. And then you'll have some holdout sites, but they'll only be available in the US and in countries that have free expression. They won't be available in Europe. They won't be available in Australia, etc., because of their onerous laws against what you can post and what you can't post, what you can say and what you can't say. Well, you're not allowed to criticize this barrister. You're not allowed to criticize this politician. It's illegal. So, I mean, a U.S. user can criticize, for example, the royalty in some nation where it's illegal to criticize the royalty, and that site then has to make a choice, I mean, depending on their reach, and larger content creators disproportionately drive this sort of decision-making. Like, let's say that I disrespect the Thai royal family. It's illegal in Thailand to do that. The Thai government may say, well, you know, there's this crazy American insulting the appearance of our king, or something like that. They talk to the site, and they say, look, you know, you need to take this down. You need to stop this sort of thing because it's illegal under Thai law. Otherwise, we're going to fine your site or shut you out of our country effectively and attempt to adjudicate it. The site then has to make a decision, lose 10 million users on that site, which would be a reasonable estimate considering the size of the population of Thailand using the internet. You either lose these 10 million users and the investment of every company that's based here that's advertising on your platform, or you take down this post and you stop these posts from being made. It's a difficult decision because these sites exist to make money. So what I'm thinking is that there may, over the next decade or so, be a balkanization of the internet where US-based sites effectively have to shelter free speech and take a loss, or they have to globalize and effectively Europeanize. The latter is probably what most of them will do because it means more money. It's a profit motive. And so what I think is that the United States needs to pass legislation preventing U.S. firms from engaging in such behavior and needs to shelter them from the tyranny of other countries. The U.S. should be expanding free speech around the world as much as it can, encouraging people in other countries to use VPNs, lobbying other countries. You dangle the carrot before them and say, look, you know, we'll make it good. You know, just back off on the anti-free expression bullshit. Or we've got a stick. We'll just throttle your country out of this network and all of your people will protest. You know, Europeans won't be able to use YouTube. Europeans won't be able to do Google searches. Europeans won't be able to have an Instagram account, etc., etc., etc. We'll prop them up. Don't worry. We've got all of this money, and these companies are big. The companies should be lobbying these countries as well, but I mean, a decade ago, they did this all the time. Now, the Turkish connection, you may remember. Most of you probably don't. Do you remember around 2012 or thereabouts, or 2011, somewhere in that neck of the woods, there was a dust-up in Turkey, the nation of Turkey, and they blocked YouTube and I think Twitter at the time because people were posting images of some judges that had been held captive by Marxist terrorists over in that country. And they said, you need to remove this. And the company said, no, it's not against our terms of service and we don't exist under Turkish law. Keeping in mind, Turkey is a NATO member that straddles the line between West and East quite literally geographically. And Turkey iced them out. Nigeria did it for a while. Other countries have. These countries stood their ground and were applauded generally in the West for doing so. Now you've got the UK and Australia, supposedly first world developed free nations with free people in them, doing what had been generally considered by the internet community of yesteryear as being the hallmark of third world tin horn dictatorships. They're acting in the same way. Australia is acting in the same way as we speak, and somebody who was contacted by the CIA happens to be leading the effort there towards censoring the internet. Now, what about this individual bouncing the proposed CIA role because she didn't take up a slot? Do you think there's any possibility that people can be recruited sort of behind the scenes and it's like, no, we don't want you as an actual agent. Don't worry, we won't have an NDA sort of thing. We want you to do something that's very public. We just want to rephrase it as though it was a virtue. So you're going to try to censor the internet using Australian law and get paid under the table for doing so. Maybe in cocaine, of course, it is the CIA. Be very open about it. It'll be a public position. Brag about it, actually. Just make sure to frame it as, we're fighting disinfo, we're fighting to keep kids safe, or something like that. Do you think that U.S. intel and intel in other countries doesn't effectively do this? Hell, then brainwash them into thinking they're doing the right thing. So, yeah, wonderful. It would be Australia now, wouldn't it? That's about all. Peace out.